Welcome back to Pro Wrestling Throwdown for the week of May 23rd, 2021. This is Luke the Big Dog Williams. I'm Caleb Black. That's our in-studio producer, the Mighty Max Fury, along with our new in-ring correspondent, Quicksilver, and we are talking about the current state of professional wrestling in regard to women's professional wrestling. We don't do a lot of videos where we highlight the goods and the ups of women's professional wrestling, and we got a suggestion today that we should do so to appeal more to our fans, who might be women, who might take chagrin to the fact that we don't talk enough about women's wrestling, and also to introduce some new fans and some new interest and some new information. Now, let's talk first. I think, and people can say what they want, I think this is the most athletic and most viable string of women's divisions between every single major company that we've probably ever had.
Yeah, for sure.
An argument can be made for like the 2010 through like 2013, specifically TNA women's division. But I think overall, there are just so many damn good women's wrestlers.
There really is. And with them getting the spotlight, those said divisions, getting the spotlight on national television, more than just like, pardon what I'm going to say here, because it's going to sound kind of off, but pardon the tits and ass generation of the WWE and
the bathroom match.
Yeah, the strip to your bra and panties,
right?
things,
the pillow fights,
and stuff like that. That Trish and people like Trish and Lita and them tried to bridge away from. Now that they have there, and here's the thing: they give the Bella Twins and Paige that push that they were the leaders of that revolution. They were not the leaders of that revolution. The leaders of that revolution were the people who were in the shit. Molly Holly, Trish Stratus, Lita. Yes. Those are the women who brought wrestling back to the foreground.
Yeah.
However, I will say is my thoughts at least on it are as how they talk about the Bella Twins and Paige. They gave it an ounce of new juice to help keep it going, because it very well easily, before they started doing the PG stuff, it very well easily could have backslid because you didn't have a lot of dominant personality as well.
Correct. Well, correct.
So they helped keep that new influx of energy to help keep the women's revolution.
But to say that they were the forefront of the women's revolution is completely
well, and consider too.
But yeah, I do agree.
The Bella Twins specifically, they get a lot of flack for maybe not being the best technically when it comes to wrestling. However, their contributions as far as expanding and getting eyes on the women's division and allowing that level of competition to be raised specifically because the WWE decided to finally invest in it, you can't argue with that. That was all them, because that was really coming off of a period of time where we all remember 2010, 2011, 2009, women's wrestling in the WWE sucked.
Yes. Oh, it was bad.
It wasn't showcased properly. They weren't booking the right talents. And you can say that argument goes back as far as you want to, really. But when Impact was doing so well, cultivating a genuinely, you got your Velvet Skies and your Angelina Loves, who maybe weren't great, but they were working.
Correct.
And Mickie James has been a workhorse in the women's division from 2005 until 3 months ago.
I think the unsung hero of the women's revolution, honestly, in my opinion, is AJ Lee.
Oh, absolutely.
AJ Lee, due to the circumstances of what took place toward the end of her career, she doesn't get her just due as being one of the jump starters for women being taken seriously in professional wrestling. We had that, and of course, we had that dead period.
Yeah.
From like the 80s to like you said, the early 2000s.
Yeah.
Because who was going to tell Moolah that she wasn't a wrestler?
Right.
Or Mae Young, she wasn't a wrestler. Sherry Martel, Rockin' Robin, Wendy Richter, Alundra Blaze, Bull Nakano.
Yeah.
These women paved the way for the WWE to
Luna Vachon.
lack of a better term, the WWE shit on the women's division.
Yeah. Well, so it all stems from a lot of Russo, and using, again, this was the 90s. Let's talk about what was selling at the time: sex and violence.
True.
We were getting all the violence we could handle. They needed some sex, and the WWE had all those sponsorship deals tied in with Playboy,
correct,
and all the separate women's outlets. So you got your Sables and your Debras and your, for lack of a better term, people who filled that spot that garnered that interest. And it really wasn't until, like we were talking about, obviously Lita and Trish go without saying.
Ivory,
Chyna,
China,
Victoria, Molly Holly, China, China, if they'd have had more women that could compete with China on that level, China would have been revered as way better than people think she was.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, she could hold her own against the men, but if they had more women like her, never would have been a conversation.
I would have loved
Beth Phoenix was so many years too late.
Beth Phoenix.
That's what I'm saying.
I would have loved to have seen them go head to head.
And when you look at that transitional period, that's when you get Beth Phoenix and Natty.
Yeah,
and that's when the fires really start getting kicked off. Gail Kim gets her little career resurgence. Right. Awesome Kong. ODB.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people think, I get a lot of flack from this for people, but I think Christy Hemme didn't get near as much as adulation as I think she deserved. She was charismatic. She was extremely athletic. Yes, she had her faults where as far as technical aspects come, which could have easily been taught. But she had the natural charisma and the athleticism to be huge if they'd have given her
the thing that hindered Christy Hemme's success was the fact that she was a Diva Search winner competitor. That's it.
Yeah, she was
because that was the stigma she always got. Yeah. And that is a shame. You know, really, like a side note about just her talent and how they so poorly used her, Kevin Nash talked about this. Christy Hemme's got a beautiful singing voice. Beautiful singing voice. Yes. And you remember when she was teaming with Lance Archer and whatever tag team partner he had at the time in TNA?
It was Lance Archer.
Jimmy Rave.
Yeah, Jimmy Rave.
Yeah, and they were like the dirty grunge band, and she's up there like singing really ugly, like it doesn't sound good. And Nash was like, I don't fucking get that.
Right.
He's like, you've got a beautiful woman with a beautiful singing voice.
They didn't want to put her over.
Like shit. Right. Just nonsense. But we get into how women's wrestling really started to take that change, and I think that Impact does take a lot of... People don't remember it as they should.
No, I agree.
While Impact's mainstream success wasn't done well, I can tell you for a fact, or at least from an opinion, Impact for a long time in the mid-2000s had the best tag team division in wrestling and the best women's division in wrestling.
For sure.
And if you look now, a lot of that success and a lot of these women that we get to, like we just had the Evolution pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Where women where women were the figurehead. We just had 2 years ago the first ever all-women's main event of a WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Back-to-back years, we've had all-women Royal Rumbles.
Yeah.
For sure.
I mean, the women's wrestling today is by leaps and bounds.
Dude, Mae Young Classics.
Yeah.
It
full features on women's wrestling. And, it's like, Mick Foley went to Twitter recently and was like, the WWE's going to miss the boat, and they need to have an all-women show. And, of course, Kelly Klein was like, yeah, we already did that. It was called Women of Honor.
Yeah.
We were on TV for a really long time, and we had the best women in the world.
And now they have the Women's Wednesdays on ringofhonor.com.
And don't forget, what's the one that we used to watch on Access TV?
Wow.
Superheroes Women of Wrestling? I don't give a shit. That was fun to watch.
Yeah. Well, it took that aspect and the funness and the character-driven stuff from Glow, because it was produced by the guy who did Glow. But it modernized it with actual wrestling.
Right.
And it was fantastic.
Don't think we're neglecting Glow. We're talking specifically about the success of today's women's division.
Well, when you look at Glow was, for lack of a better term, those women were athletes.
Oh, yeah.
But for lack of a better term, it was a gimmick.
Yeah, it was a gimmick.
It was a weekly variety show with a wrestling.
Right. So, obviously, some of the biggest stars in wrestling today are women. I don't think anybody can argue with that.
No.
The top of the list, well, I think it's a tandem spot, but it deserves to be talked about. Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair.
Yes. I would even throw Bayley in on that.
Yeah, Bayley. Sasha Banks, too. All four of them. All four of them. They really, from NXT, ushering in that real competitive environment in NXT where women, and then they get called up, and it's just in that transition where they've still got some of the old guard like Natty, and now we're mixing in the youth, and now you think about it, that was 5, 6, 7 years ago, Charlotte Flair's old guard.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool to see that transition.
Well, and you also look at the way that women's wrestling has evolved due to the fact that we have top women athletes in the world of sports, period. Ronda Rousey being the prime example, who are like, I want to do that.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do. That's how I want to make my money.
Yeah.
And she come in, and the transition was seamless.
Yeah.
Because it's just as much of a competitive sport as MMA anymore. Back in the day, you never thought twice about the women's division because you never will showcase the women's division. You got 2 to 3 minute matches on Raw or SmackDown, if you were lucky.
That oftentimes stunk up the joint.
Yeah. Well, oftentimes it was 6-on-6, and the 4 moves take it home.
Yeah.
No one pays to watch. Vince McMahon was actually quoted on saying, "No one pays
to watch
women wrestle," and that's wrong.
I agree.
That is completely wrong.
When done well and when utilized correctly, the Bianca Belair Sasha Banks main event from this year's WrestleMania was one of the most emotional, real, and genuinely good. First of all, they busted their asses. They were athletic. They were hard hitting. There wasn't a dead spot in the match. There were no botches. They beat the shit out of each other.
And the one match that comes to mind, other than that, also had Bayley in it, was NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 2, I think it was Sasha Banks and Bayley when they put the strap on Bayley.
Yeah.
That crowd was so over.
Yeah.
And they weren't even, they was the first NXT women's main event, I believe. And the crowd was so over that when they got back to the back, the NXT champion at the time, Finn Balor, was like, I'm so glad that we went on before you guys.
Yeah.
Because there's no way we could have followed that.
And
fantastic.
Charlotte Flair and Asuka 4 years ago at WrestleMania.
I love Asuka.
You just right there in my little house. Asuka, for her, and I hate to say this because it's going to kind of sound bad, for her age that she is even continuing and is performing at top level, just shows the dedication that she has not only to the health and safety of her body, but the dedication she has to the sport is mind-blowing, and it should be, and I hope it is for women going forth. You know, in 10 years down the road, I'm hoping that we have women going into their late 30s.
Well, keep in mind, too,
is the one that
Japanese wrestlers don't age appropriately.
No, they really don't.
Like, you could be 190 years old and you can still main event an AJPW pay-per-view.
For sure.
But that's exactly what I'm saying. That's
fucking
you're talking
Yuji Nagata's 98 was just on AEW.
Right.
That's like what you're saying. That's New Japan.
Yeah.
So it's expected there.
Yeah.
But the fact that Asuka has relocated to the United States.
Yeah, and she kills it every single
doing that and killing it and keeping herself in shape and taking care of her family on top of her career should be, and I hope it is, going forth 10, 20 years from now. You have women, in wrestling that are saying, this was my inspiration.
Yeah.
You're going to see
Asuka, and the cool thing now, though, is that you're going to see in 5 years, you're going to see kids coming up into developmentals and territories and being like, I was at WrestleMania when I saw Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks. Yeah. And that's what made me decide to get into wrestling at 19 years old. And they'll have the opportunities to wrestle them. Yep. Let's talk about real quick, because we are going to start to run on time here. Let's talk about who has the wrestling business in their hands right now as champions, and we'll talk about each piece a little bit. I'm going to go over just the belts from the main American mainstream promotions. There are several women's promotions in Japan. There are women's champions in Mexico, but we're going to talk about right here at home domestically, and in no particular order, the AEW Women's Champion Hikaru Shida.
A title reign that has not been matched by anyone in the business as of right now.
I think, I don't know if she's gone as long as Asuka's NXT Women's title reign.
Yes. I believe she has. Or if not, she's close.
Like, she's close. And damn, if she's not a damn good wrestler. The only thing that I can say that suffers there is the fact that is the way AEW books it. But that's just like a preference thing.
Yeah.
But she's out there every single week or every single month, busting her ass and putting on genuinely good women's matches.
For sure.
And you know what? Fuck that. We're not saying women's matches anymore.
Wrestling
genuinely good matches.
Right.
NWA Women's Champ Serena Deeb, probably for her age, the best pound-for-pound technical women's wrestler in the game.
Pound for pound, one of the greatest women's wrestlers who has not got the worldwide stage that she deserves.
And considering she's only in her, young 20s?
Yeah.
She's got so far to go.
Yeah.
We'd be remiss not to talk about real quick that incredible Lights Out match that happened a little while ago with Thunder Rosa and Dr. Britt Baker. Neither of them are champions, but that showed right there that women can not only main event, but they can main event on a hardcore, hard-hitting level.
Yes, for sure.
Impact. The Maestro, Deonna Purrazzo, women's champion, is the best technical women's wrestler in the world today.
Can't argue.
I think there's an argument there, but I'm not going to make it because it's pointless.
She's incredible. She's fluid. Yes. She's still young. And she took the transition from NXT going back to Impact without missing a beat. And she also, a lot of people don't know this, has been advocating really, really hard with this AEW Impact crossover legitimately that the women should be a part of this mix, and I can't agree more. Kiera Hogan and Tasha Steele just won back the Impact Women's Tag Team Championships.
Yeah. The two are a fantastic tag team.
They really are.
I'm not big on the gimmick.
Yeah. But that's because it doesn't lend a lot to showcase their ability.
That's my thing.
And I think it
deters. I think it deters from the action.
I love their charisma. I love their in-ring ability. And Kiera Hogan is going to be somebody.
Oh, for sure.
So will Tasha Steele. But Kiera Hogan, remember how we used to always talk about, we love the Iconics, but Peyton Royce has just like that much more? Kiera Hogan has that much more on Tasha Steele.
For sure.
NXT Women's Tag Team Champions currently are Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell.
Once again, a tag team.
Not a whole lot can't be said poorly about Miss Saneface.
No.
Because despite my personal preferences in wrestling, she came up from the Indies. She earned her spot. She's heralded in the NXT Women's Division, and that's following the footsteps of Charlotte and Bayley and Sasha.
Oh yeah.
So, NXT UK Women's Champion Kaylee Ray.
Kaylee Ray has held the championship almost longer than any woman in modern day professional wrestling, WWE, or other, I believe. She's had the women's UK title since she beat Toni Storm for it, which was almost 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Before the pandemic.
So is Toni Storm.
She's went up against the likes of Valkyrie.
Yeah.
The UK Valkyrie.
Yeah.
Of the Vipress. Piper Niven. I mean, she's been up against Dakota Kai, Toni Storm. You name it.
She's beat them.
Yeah. The Japanese sensation over in the UK, the older lady.
Yeah.
She beat her the other night. I mean, you can't say anything bad about Kaylee Ray.
Yeah. NXT Women's Champion Raquel Gonzalez.
Up and coming, has a lot of career ahead of her. Very promising. She's got a good build, good size, good talent.
Look.
Yes.
Looks like a legitimate female badass.
Yes.
And this feud with her and Mercedes Martinez, we said what they need to do as soon as she got the belt is put her up against Martinez because Martinez is of the same cloth.
Agreed.
And they're both going to just beat the hell out of each other, and it's so good for TV. WWE Women's Tag Team Champions Tamina Snuka and Natty Neidhart.
About time.
Not only is it about time, it's beautiful to see the generational thing together. I really dig that. They got the belts off of Shayna, they got the belts off of Nia, and they got the belts on the Workhorse Tag Team.
They got it on the people that they should have had it all along, in my opinion.
SmackDown Women's Champion Bianca Belair just main evented WrestleMania.
Yeah,
just took the belt. Hopefully she's got a long reign. And again, she's on SmackDown with Sasha, with Bayley, with the women she can compete with at a high level where she doesn't have to slow down for anybody.
Yeah.
And of course, the top of the mountain, Rhea Ripley, Raw Women's Champion.
Rhea Ripley is an unbelievable talent.
Agreed.
I think a lot of it has been untapped so far.
Yeah.
I think that there's a lot more where they could go with her. Not only storyline wise, but just really the sky's the limit with somebody like Rhea Ripley. She has a look. She has a definite look.
Yeah. That
is hers and hers alone, rather. Yeah. Especially within the realm of the WWE universe and the way that they do things. It's perfect for her. Her matches she's been doing have been phenomenal. They're exactly right where you want her to be.
I agree. Guys, when it comes to women's wrestling, the wrestling business is in good hands. We hope that this highlight video does somebody justice. If you're not really into women's wrestling and you don't really get it, do yourself a favor. Take a look at the modern product because in a lot of ways, women's wrestling right now is better than what the men are doing.
For sure.
And that's saying a whole lot. So, make sure you check out some women's wrestling. Leave us your feedback on what you think the current state of women's wrestling looks like. You can do that by following us on Twitter at ProWrestlingTD, finding us on Facebook at Facebook.com/ProWrestlingThrowdown, sending us an email at ProWrestlingThrowdown@gmail.com, and of course, as always, like, subscribe, comment down below. Stay tuned. We got more videos coming your way.